Just go home, you poor guy.
Saying that, Natalie poured lukewarm beer on me.
Are you okay, big brother?
It was at the wedding greeting of my sister Diana and Harry Miller. The Miller couple seemed dissatisfied that Diana, a high school graduate, was their son's fiancée. Diana, too, seemed to have an unwelcome position as the fiancée. I took out a handkerchief from my pocket and wiped my wet head and forehead. Even though my wife Emma had arranged a place for Diana to be introduced. It seemed like Diana would only struggle in such a family.
Got it. Diana, let's go home.
But...
Oh, and by the way, you Miller Industries will completely withdraw from the $2 billion urban development project.
My name is Daniel Garcia. I work at Garcia Construction, one of the leading construction companies in the region, competing for the top spot. Although I am now in a position to handle significant projects and give orders to employees, I struggled when I first entered the construction industry. The main reason was my educational background, as I only graduated from high school. When I was in my third year of high school, preparing for the final push of university exams, my parents suddenly died in a traffic accident. At that time, I had just become a brother to a younger sister, named Diana. She was still a 1-year-old baby, and the accident happened when our parents left her at my aunt's house and went shopping by car. So, Diana doesn't even remember having parents. Although I was assured of passing the entrance exams for my desired university, I gave up on going to college. With no parents around, and with a breastfeeding baby sister, how could I afford the luxury of university life? I didn't have any special skills, and the world in which I could find employment was limited. The only thing I could boast about in my youth was my physical strength. While carrying heavy construction materials on the construction site, I learned the ABCs of carpentry. The foremen, though rough in speech, were kind-hearted people who took care of me, an orphan who lost both parents.
As the old saying goes, the hardships of youth are worth buying. Daniel, the struggles you're going through will bear fruit someday. Hang in there until then.
Fortunately, I had always liked making things. I worked hard, and visiting Diana, who was entrusted to my aunt, became my greatest pleasure. Diana welcomed me with an innocent smile. I was saved by Diana's existence, realizing how precious something in the world could be. From then on, until Diana grew up to a certain age, I worked, putting myself second. By the time Diana turned 10, I was entrusted with office and accounting work at the company where the foreman who taught me carpentry.
You're smart. Rather than going to the site, you're more suited to a role where you give orders. It's outrageous to give instructions to you. I've only been a carpenter for 10 years. Listen, there are roles that people are naturally inclined towards. You are clearly someone who excels at leading people. For us too, having someone who knows the site well in a leadership position makes the work smoother.
I always attended discussions between companies, supporting the foreman. A turning point in my life came when I was 32 years old. On that day, a salesperson from Garcia Construction was supposed to visit the construction site. There, a woman in her mid-20s, dressed in a navy suit with a yellow helmet, appeared. She wandered around the building. "Hey, it's dangerous there. Non-staff members are not allowed." When I warned her, the woman turned around with a beaming smile.
Hello. I'm Emma Garcia from Garcia Construction.
Her voice, heard for the first time, was energetic and had a kind of power that brightened people's hearts. I immediately escorted her to the office.
I thought it was a man since they said a salesperson was coming.
That's a common assumption. I've gotten used to it. But I also thought you were quite young.
I'm 32 years old.
Wow. You're so young. I thought we were around the same age.
At that time, Emma was 25 years old, 7 years younger than me. From the first day we met, her approach was impressive. But being not proactive with women, her assertiveness was just right for me. I naturally started dating her. She repeatedly praised me at home, and when I went to her house for the marriage greeting, her parents welcomed me with open arms. That's how I married Emma and became a son-in-law in the Garcia family. Diana was 15 at the time, going through a sensitive period. She seemed very happy to have a close relative around her age. Although both Emma and I wanted to take Diana in, she strongly wished to continue living with our aunt and attend school. As time passed, Diana reached her 3rd year of high school, a period for deciding between work or further education. I naturally assumed she would go to college, but she expressed her desire to go to nursing school. I tried to discourage her, but she didn't budge.
I want to enter society quickly, earn money, and repay my big brother. I want to become a nurse and help various people.
If she had a job she wanted to do, I wanted to respect that. However, wouldn't it be better for her to become a nurse after graduating from college? Emma also joined in persuading her, but Diana's determination remained unshaken. At Diana's high school graduation ceremony, Emma and I sat in the family section, watching Diana receive her diploma. She had grown so much without me realizing it. Life with only photos of our parents must have been incredibly challenging. And she's a girl. There must have been times when she felt overwhelmed by anxiety or despair. Although I considered myself a substitute parent, I couldn't penetrate those deep corners of her heart. Feeling the weight of the struggles, Emma, sitting beside me, quietly handed me a handkerchief.
It's okay, Daniel. Let's continue supporting her together.
Emma's words were more than comforting. After graduating from high school, Diana lived on her own with our support while attending nursing school. But as a surrogate parent, I couldn't help worrying. What if she got involved with the wrong guy? The anxieties were unbearable. Despite that, there was a precious daily life in front of me, and I continued with the demands of my job. Emma, as always, was head over heels for me. Even after several years, people around us teased us, saying we looked like newlyweds. Fortunately, Diana and Emma had a great relationship. I watched over Diana's growth, considering myself a surrogate parent. She, whom I still saw as a child, grew up quickly, and Diana would soon celebrate her 30th birthday. Meanwhile, there were significant developments in my work. The long-discussed state land development project was officially announced, attracting many construction professionals in the area. The entire city would undergo a transformation in a 10-year plan. Buildings and roads we would create would adorn the city. We were excited to see the completed design, which looked like World Trade Center, in the New York area. Our Garcia Construction, along with many subsidiaries, entered the project.
It's going to be busy from now on. But I'll make sure to prioritize our life together as much as possible.
Thank you. We may not have children, but this city is like our child.
Despite our good relationship, we couldn't have children. Emma was now around 40 years old. From around the age of 30 for a few years, we tried fertility treatments, but we never had the joy of welcoming a new life. Now, we stopped treatment and shifted our focus to how to enrich our lives as a couple.
As long as Daniel is with me, I'm happy. We don't need a successor to be our biological child, we can nurture talented employees.
Emma seemed comfortable with the fact that we didn't have children, and I was relieved. Eventually, Diana graduated from nursing school and started working as a nurse.
I really love my current job.
While there are many challenging aspects, when patients express their gratitude, it makes all the unpleasant experiences fly away.
It's great that you enjoy your work, but how about finding a good partner soon?
That's right, Diana. Marriage is a wonderful thing. Being with someone you love for a long time.
In response to Emma's words, Diana smiled and replied,
Big sister, you're head over heels for big brother. My ideal is to be like you and big brother, married by the time I'm 32.
Despite Diana not showing much interest in men, these kinds of discussions seem to come unexpectedly. One evening, Diana made a phone call.
Big brother, I'm getting married. The groom is a guy named Harry Miller. He's an IT engineer.
Both Emma and I were surprised and overjoyed by Diana's news. They met at the hospital. Harry was hospitalized for stomach ulcer surgery. He's an IT engineer, the same age as Diana.
He somehow resembled Big Brother. I realized we were the same age as we talked.
Harry's parents run a construction company.
Oh, if it's a construction company, we're in the same industry. What's the name of their company?
Well, it's called Miller Industries. But Harry didn't want to follow in his parents' footsteps. I don't really understand, but he doesn't like his parents much. It's a bit extravagant, isn't it?
For Diana, who has been without parents since she can remember, any parents are better than none. The pain of having walked through life without parents seeps through her words. Families come in various forms. Once you become a bride, try to reconcile the relationship between parents and children.
That's right. I'll cherish my father-in-law and mother-in-law. They're my first set of parents.
However, things weren't as simple as they sounded. I felt something was amiss with Harry's attitude. It happened when Harry visited our house with a greeting.
Brother-in-law, sister-in-law, I will definitely make Diana happy.
Emma nodded happily while offering tea and sweets.
Thank you for coming. We need to arrange a formal introduction between your parents and Diana.
Then Harry stammered.
Well, there's no need to force such a thing. We're the ones getting married.
Emma and I exchanged glances.
It can't be like that. We need to formally introduce ourselves. No exceptions.
Harry hesitated and said,
Yes, you're right.
Then Emma said,
Understood. I'll make a reservation at a French restaurant and arrange a proper meeting. Let's do it right.
So, on an auspicious day, a formal meeting between the two families was arranged. However, on the morning of that day, Emma developed a fever of 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Despite her insistence on going, I managed to calm her down, and Diana and I went on our own. The place Emma chose was a well-known upscale French restaurant in the area. I had used it when I reported our marriage to my in-laws. The proprietress remembered me and welcomed us with a warm smile. In the room we were led to, Harry's father, Noah, and his wife, Natalie, sat side by side, with Harry sitting small beside them.
Sorry for being late. I'm Daniel, Diana's brother.
Diana also bowed politely, holding 3 fingers up.
Nice to meet you. I'm Diana Johnson. I sincerely appreciate you coming here today.
After Harry introduced his parents, we took our seats again. Before the dishes arrived, we were served beer. When glasses were distributed to everyone, Natalie, rudely staring at Diana, suddenly blurted out.
I heard you only graduated from high school. And your parents are not around. I've never seen an orphan before. Although you're small, I wonder if your diet was poor.
I was left speechless. No matter what, that was an inappropriate thing to say. As I tried to refute, Noah delivered the final blow. We, for generations, graduated from prestigious national universities. A high school graduate as a partner for Harry is a bit unconventional. Harry stood up. What are you saying now? It's too late. I've already decided to marry Diana. Stop with that narrow-minded attitude already. You've become quite insolent. Clearly, the negative influence of dating a poor person is showing. I couldn't help but stand up. Wait a minute. What's wrong with being a high school graduate? I'm a high school graduate too. Yet, I've worked hard to live. Don't say rude things. Insolent. Are you trying to give us your opinion?
You high school graduate. Poor people, just go home and clean up everything.
Saying that, Natalie poured lukewarm beer over me.
Big brother, are you okay?
Diana, now an unwelcome fiancée, seemed helpless. I took out a handkerchief from my pocket and wiped my wet head and forehead. Despite Emma setting up a place for Diana to be introduced, Noah and Natalie ruined it with their words. Prejudice against Diana for being a high school graduate and labeled as poor, the two prospective in-laws were trapped in such biases. Even if Diana married into such a family, she would only suffer. I understand. Diana, let's go.
But
I don't want to become relatives with these two. Diana, think about it calmly again.
it's you who needs to calm down, big brother.
Diana didn't understand anything. Even if the young couple loved each other, with such prospective in-laws, they could never be happy. Certainly, as Diana said, I couldn't stay calm. Diana and I are high school graduates, but what's wrong with that? I don't mind whatever they say about me, but it's unbearable to see Diana treated as a poor person. Unable to contain my anger, I stood up, looked down at Noah, and spat out. Oh, and by the way, you, Miller Industries, will completely withdraw from the $2 billion urban development project. Noah and Natalie were dumbfounded. Urban development project. How the hell do you know about that? Oh, I see, you're a construction worker. Well, a high school graduate can do that.
Even though you're at the bottom of the pecking order. Why should we withdraw from the urban development project? Are you planning to gather workers and stage a protest?
That wouldn't be a bad idea, but I have the authority to withdraw you from this urban development project. Your company is a subcontractor for Garcia Construction, right? Noah's face tensed up nervously. We've been indebted to Garcia Construction for a long time. What's the matter? What's your relationship with Garcia Construction? Natalie also clouded her face a bit but still energetically retorted.
Could it be that you're also a subcontractor for Garcia Construction?
I haven't heard the name Garcia in this industry. At least, there's no one named Garcia in a position of authority. It's about time to reveal the truth. My sister Diana has the Garcia surname, but I'm different. Today, I didn't have a chance to introduce myself as I didn't come with my wife, but I'm Daniel Garcia. I'm the son-in-law of Leo Garcia, the president of Garcia Construction. Noah's mouth moved like a goldfish deprived of oxygen. What? You're the son-in-law of Garcia Construction. Yes, I'm the executive director of Garcia Construction, and I've been actively involved in this urban development project. I have full authority delegated by my father-in-law Leo. Natalie, with a stunned face, murmured softly. I can't believe you're the son-in-law of Garcia Construction. Oh, by the way, their only daughter is named Emma, right? So you're Emma's husband? I nodded firmly. That's correct.
I will personally return to the company and officially remove Miller Industries from subcontracting for this urban development project. There was no connection this time. Excuse me. I grabbed Diana's shoulder and tried to forcefully leave the room. However, Diana twisted her body, freeing herself from my grip.
Big brother, wait. I haven't said anything yet. This marriage is my issue.
Diana, you don't understand anything. Marriage is not just about the individuals involved. It connects families. If you marry Harry, I will become part of their family. I can't accept that.
No way. Big brother, reconsider. Harry hasn't done anything wrong.
At this point, I was a bit exasperated by Diana's insistence on marrying Harry. Honestly, Harry was innocent. But I understand. Even if, by some chance, they managed to get married, prospective in-laws Noah and Natalie would likely continue harassing Diana, labeling her as a poor person. I, having married Emma, am blessed with good in-laws, but I truly realize that marriage is about connecting families. As a son-in-law, spending time with the Garcia family during Bon festivals, year-end holidays, and New Year's is not without its challenges. Some individuals, like Emma's distant relatives, are concerned about me becoming a son-in-law and wielding significant power. Dealing with such people is truly tough. Fortunately, Emma has a strong affection for me, and whenever trouble seems to brew, she habitually says,
If you have a problem with the person I chose, then leave Garcia Construction.
Emma's father, Leo, adores her to the point where criticizing her would be painless for him, so Emma's words are absolute. Of course, I don't just rely on Emma's words. To gain the trust of those under me, I earnestly dedicate myself to work. Those who know I've worked hard see me as a boss who cares about those under him. In this urban development project, I must approach each aspect with a broad perspective. If Miller Industries becomes a subcontractor for Garcia Construction, it will be a relationship lasting for the next 10 years. I cannot work with individuals who insult me for being a high school graduate or poor. At that moment, Noah, still seated, starts sliding towards me.
Yeah. What Diana said is right. It's not like we're against this marriage or anything. We're just worried because our upbringings are different, wondering if Diana can handle it.
I couldn't help but be exasperated. Then Natalie, following Noah's lead, approaches me while rubbing against my legs.
Earlier, the beer slipped, and I'm sorry. I didn't intend to spill it on my brother-in-law. Please forgive me.
I silently gazed down at Natalie. I see, it slipped, huh? I have a vague memory of hearing the words, this high school graduate, though. Natalie stammers.
That was.
It's fine. You didn't say it by mistake. I've risen to this position despite being a high school graduate. Not everyone dislikes it. But I can't become relatives with people who hold such views.
With a scream, Natalie grabs the beer bottle on the table and pours it over her own head. Isn't this a foolish act, especially when they haven't won a baseball championship? Or is it a plea to spare herself from experiencing the same fate? At that moment, Harry stands up.
Mom, Dad, cut it out, it's embarrassing. After saying such rude things, how can you suddenly change your tune? My brother-in-law is angry because of the insensitivity.
Noah and Natalie bow their heads, chastened by Harry's words. Harry then turns to me, bowing deeply.
Mr. Daniel, please. Allow Diana and me to get married. After today, I'll cut ties with my parents. Diana won't meet them again, and I won't allow calls or emails. So please.
Next to him, Diana rushes over, kneels down, and bows her head towards me.
I'm also pleading with you. Big brother, please allow our marriage.
All four of them are now in a posture close to kneeling, pleading with me. It's become quite strange all of a sudden. Then I start laughing. Diana raises her head, raising her eyebrows.
Big brother, we're earnestly asking, and you're being so mean.
Sorry. It's just that seeing four people almost kneeling in front of me is an incredibly unlikely sight.
Then, looking at Harry, I kneel on one knee.
Harry, what you said earlier is true, right? Actually, it's impossible to completely sever ties, but please try to minimize any trouble. And I'm sorry, but I'll have to cut ties with Miller Industries.
Harry nods solemnly.
It can't be helped.
Noah and Natalie look at Harry in surprise.
Harry, are you saying it's okay for your parents to end up like this?
Harry, please apologize to Mr. Daniel. This is a significant project involving most of the local construction companies. I've taken on considerable debt, thinking I could be involved.
Harry pats Diana's shoulder, helping her stand up.
Let's go, Diana. Let's leave it at this. Even if Diana forgives the rudeness of my parents, I can't forgive them. Alright, let's go.
I take the lead, leaving the room, with Diana and Harry following. So, I left the French restaurant with Diana and Harry and headed home. Emma came out in her pajamas, looking livelier than in the morning, so I explained the situation so far.
Diana, congratulations on your marriage. I understand you might have mixed feelings about your in-laws, but I think his actions are not wrong. These things might resolve with time.
Diana seemed to have resigned herself and nodded quietly.
Big brother can be scary when he's angry. I learned that today.
I chuckled, trying not to worry Diana any further. But she's a bit naive. The Miller couple will only know the extent of my sternness from now on. Miller Industries faced a crisis as they couldn't participate in a major local project. And the American construction industry already had various problems. As long as they stayed in this prefecture, there was no worry about work for the next 10 years. They thought they were secure and had just built their own building. However, loans piled up, and they had to let go of their building. Desperately, Noah tried to become a subcontractor for other companies. I subtly shared the story of being labeled a poor person by Miller's president with colleagues in the industry. Just casual gossip. But it stung. Word spread in the industry. The son-in-law of Garcia Construction got angry. Even friendly construction companies distanced themselves. Now, nobody would lend a hand to Noah and Natalie. Not only in the construction business but also in local shops like the rice store and electronics shop. Unable to make a living in this town, Natalie screamed. Employees started quitting one by one. By the time the last one left, their building had already been taken over by someone else. They finally let go of their home, left the prefecture pursued by debt collectors, and disappeared. The last time we heard from them, my mother said she started feeling sick when she saw beer commercials. Emma laughed cheerfully.
Looks like we planted quite a trauma.
So, Harry, do you not know where your parents went? They're probably afraid of notifying me to avoid debt collectors. Also, it might be a kind of parental concern, trying to keep the harm from reaching me.
It would take 10 or 20 years to return to their original family. Diana's heart had finally settled.
If we live, the day will come when we can meet again. I believe that.
She doesn't seek forgiveness for pushing me further. But my feelings have calmed down to the point where, if they return to this town, I might be willing to help in some way. Diana and Harry's wedding took place in Hawaii, funded by us. to avoid the consideration of the empty seats on Harry's side at a wedding reception in US. As I walked Diana down the aisle, holding her hand, I struggled to hold back tears. When I handed her over to Harry, it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. But, truth be told, I found that weight oddly comforting. Emma gently tapped my shoulder.
You really need to fix that sister complex.
I had no words in response and scratched my head in embarrassment. With the casualness of being overseas, I hugged Emma tightly. From now on, I'll entrust Diana to Harry and enrich my days with Emma. To Harry, who chose Diana and recognized such a difficult brother-in-law, I have nothing but gratitude. Under the blue sky of Hawaii, I prayed for their happiness. That day, I felt unusually down right from the morning. It was because I had to meet with Johnson, the director of our client's company, whom I find most challenging to deal with. If I had to describe Johnson in one word, it would be that he's incredibly competent at his job. He graduated from a top-notch university, so he's really sharp. His directions and questions during business negotiations are always spot on. Plus, he knows more about the product than I do, so if I give a vague explanation, his expression becomes increasingly stern. I keep going, knowing this, because I can't just stop, and then he says,
"Stop it."
There's no emotion in Johnson's words at that moment. It's like he's holding back anger, which is even scarier. When he tells me to stop, I wait for Johnson's next statement. And he invariably says,
"It's only natural to come prepared and convince the other party. Continuing this conversation is a waste of time."
There's probably a 20-year age gap between Johnson and me, but we're both professionals. I think polite conversation would be the norm, but Johnson seems to have no interest in that. At first, I didn't think Johnson was looking down on me, even though he was dismissive. But one day, after he unilaterally ended a business discussion, something happened that revealed his true feelings. He said loud enough for me to hear,
"This is why I can't stand middle school graduate."
The first time Johnson said that, I thought I'd heard wrong. He couldn't possibly say something that terrible. To be honest, I wanted to believe. I tried to reinterpret his words in my head. But they wouldn't change. And I couldn't exactly ask him to repeat himself, so I just went back to the office feeling frustrated. And then there was the day I felt unusually down. The reason was the homework Johnson had given me. The homework was to explain convincingly the benefits of doing business with our company to Johnson's satisfaction. I took it as his final warning. A decision point on whether to continue dealing with me. And if our relationship ended, it meant the end of business with our company. For our company, Johnson's firm is a major client. Losing them because of me would cause significant damage. All I had to do was to give a convincing explanation. But it wasn't that simple. I work in sales agent for an apparel manufacturer. With the rise of online and mail-order sales, some apparel brands are shifting away from physical stores. Still, storefronts remain a key sales channel, so they can't all be shut down. On the other hand, cost control is a major issue. That's where sales agents come in, managing staff recruitment, training, and sales activities, even though the stores and products belong to the manufacturers. But for customers, it doesn't matter who the staff works for. Poor service reflects badly on the store and, by extension, the brand. So, apparel manufacturers are naturally strict about choosing their sales agent. Johnson was the key person in that process. That day, I thought I'd done my homework well. I spent more time than usual making the presentation materials clear and easy to understand. I prepared thoroughly to answer any questions Johnson might have. But still, as I explained, Johnson's expression became increasingly stern. I felt like he could say, "Stop it," at any moment. But this time was different. Not in a good way, though. He did something worse than usual. Johnson picked up an inkwell that was on the table and poured it over the presentation materials I had made. I remember thinking it was odd that there was an inkwell on the table when we first sat down. Maybe Johnson had planned from the start to douse my documents with ink, preparing the inkwell just for that.
What the hell are you doing?
I couldn't help but shout at him. But Johnson, unapologetic, retorted.
How can you say that? Just like before, you show me this dull material. This is just the limit of a middle school graduate.
He said it looking straight at me. Normally, I'd look away from his piercing gaze, but that day I glared back. I couldn't tolerate his attitude. Seeing the ink-soiled documents, I thought of those who had helped me prepare them. I had gone back to the office, racking my brain over how to handle the homework Johnson had given me and reported everything to my boss, Wilson. His response was that,
"This is serious. The company's fate hangs in the balance."
But contrary to the gravity of his words, Wilson's face was bright. That's just like him. Probably thinking, growth comes after overcoming challenges.
A professional grows by overcoming difficulties. Have the capacity to welcome adversity.
That's the kind of cliché Wilson would say with ease. I first heard those words right after I started dealing with Johnson.
The challenge I'm facing is too tough,
I said to Wilson after a few meetings with Johnson.
The reward after overcoming it will be exciting.
That's when I realized.
No matter what I say, he's not going to change my assignment.
Yet, Wilson isn't the type to blindly throw his employees to the wolves. He listens properly and helps brainstorm solutions. If there's work to be done, he often lends a hand.
Once we have a draft, we can use it for presentations to other companies. How about we all brainstorm together?
That's what Wilson suggested to the team when I told them about the homework Johnson had given.
I'm in.
The first response was from Michael. He's a very friendly guy, always helpful and someone I really respect. It wasn't just Johnson who looked down on me for my education. Though to varying degrees, I've been treated unfairly several times just because I'm a middle school graduate. But having Wilson and Michael around is a big reason I've been able to keep going despite being down. More colleagues joined, and handling Johnson became a team effort. We even gave our team a name. It was the Make Johnson Eat His Words Squad. For a week leading up to our appointment with Johnson, we met repeatedly and finished the documents. After the documents were done, Michael even role-played as Johnson for our Q&A preparation. And now, the meticulously prepared documents lay ink-stained before me. Johnson, seemingly indifferent to my glare, commanded.
Come back in 30 minutes.
I didn't move.
Didn't you hear? Come back in 30 minutes.
Still, I didn't move. I didn't want to. Johnson started to look puzzled, noticing my unusual behavior. A heavy silence fell between us. I wasn't planning anything. Frankly, I was at a loss.
What should I do now?
Just then, the conference room door opened. Johnson and I turned to look. A woman in her late 50s stood there. Her expression was a mix of anger and surprise.
Why is the missus here?
Johnson muttered. I didn't know what he meant by Mrs., but from his shocked face, I guessed she wasn't usually here. Had she run all the way? She held her chest with her right hand, taking slow, deep breaths. Then, after a deep breath, she addressed Johnson.
Do you realize who he is, treating him like this?
Johnson looked dumbfounded, probably replaying her words in his mind. It wasn't only Johnson trying to make sense of her statement. I had no clue what she meant. The word "what she said" made me think, in my mind. I had no idea what the words "the woman" meant. Slowly walking into the room, she approached Johnson and said,
This man is Mr. Smith's grandson.
What?
Johnson froze. I then understood what she meant. My grandfather, the Mr. Smith she referred to, was the exclusive designer for this company. To me, he was just my regular grandpa. But he played a big part in making this company a respected apparel manufacturer over the years. Inspired by him, I apprenticed with my grandpa after middle school. I wanted to learn a job near my grandfather as soon as possible. One day, about 3 years into working with my grandpa, he called me. And he said,
Go and learn about the outside world. It's important to understand how many people are involved in getting a single piece of clothing to the customer.
So, I worked in a direct sales store for 2 years and then joined a sales agent company, where I've been for 3 years now. Only the CEO and a few executives at my current company know I'm my grandpa's grandson. I didn't want to use his name to get ahead and didn't want my colleagues to feel uneasy around me. Yet, I still didn't understand why she had come here so urgently. Then she turned to me and said,
I deeply apologize for Johnson's behavior on behalf of our company. I would like to apologize on behalf of the CEO.
She apologized. The Mrs. Johnson was referring to was the CEO's wife. Feeling awkward, I said,
Please, you don't have to apologize. But how did you know about Johnson's attitude toward me? And why are you here?
She explained.
I got a call from Wilson. My subordinate will make a great proposal to your company today, but a man named Johnson might squash it. Any help would be appreciated. I'm sorry for being late.
She looked apologetic.
But how do you know Wilson?
As if she knew my thoughts, she continued.
Wilson and I were middle school classmates. We reconnected at a reunion when we were 30 and have been in touch since. We're in the same industry.
That's why she called him Wilson.
I understood. But I still had one question. How does she know about my grandfather?
How do you know about my grandfather?
I asked, her face brightened a bit.
I used to work under your grandfather. I even met you when you were little.
I'm back.
Returning to the office, I went straight to Wilson.
Seems like the presentation went well.
He said with a smile.
The presentation was a disaster. But after that, it was a series of happy events. Even Johnson said he'd change his ways.
To anyone else, my response wouldn't make sense. But Wilson seemed to understand everything.
Looks like you've overcome a challenge. You look good.
He said.
It's all thanks to everyone. I appreciate it.
I said, looking at everyone. Everyone looked back at me, smiling. I thought to myself.
I'm really blessed with the people around me.